Greetings and welcome to another Warhammer Underworlds review, where I'm going over Skabbik's Plaguepack and the Paths of Prophecy Rivals deck for Warhammer Underworlds. But before we get into things, thanks goes to Games Workshop for providing this to review for free. As always, I aim to be honest, impartial, and constructively critical. And remember, please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of these products and this review. And remember, I've got a Discord you can check out in the episode description below, as well as an affiliate link to Element Games and a Patreon if you want to give me some more support. But yeah, let's get on with the review. So yeah, I'm going to go over Skabbik's Plaguepack and then the Paths of Prophecy deck. So the Skabbik's Plaguepack are the new Clan Skya, I think. No, they're the plague rats basically for Skaven. So I'll be going over this warband, and then after I've covered all of that, I'll go through all the Rivals deck. So let's get into it. So Skabbik's Plaguepack are a 6-fighter warband. They're quite large, basically a horde team, although only technically. They're not as fast as previous Skaven teams, as they're more durable, considering, they're the slower and more tougher plague rats of, the Skaven. So it means like they're not really going to have too many high hitters, and they're actually not going to be that defensive because they're relying on their bodies. But they're an interesting warband. My favorite model has to be the leader. It just looks great. The only thing is, while I love all the new Skaven models in general, it's just the smoke looks a bit off. It looks too solid, if that makes sense. But either way, the kit looks amazing, and they go together pretty much okay. They come in green plastic, not the usual Skaven brown, but I guess it makes sense because, they're basically plague monks. But with that out of the way, let's get into the cards. So for Skabbik's Plaguepack, you have the following plot card. When using Skabbik's Plaguepack, show this card to your opponent in the rear warband step. At the end of an action phase, a player's and or no one's territory are corrupted by the warband if the following are true. 2 or more of friendly fighters are in that territory. 1 or more friendly befoulers are on objective in that territory. And when a territory becomes corrupted, it remains corrupted until the end of the next action phase. But the only weird thing is what happens at the end of the next following action phase if you meet the conditions again. Does the uncorrupting take precedence, or do you immediately uncorrupt and recorrupt? That's the only unclear thing. But it basically establishes that this warband wants to be in at least 2 of the 3 available territories. So your territory, your no man's land, and your opponent's territory. And you basically probably want to put at least 1 objective marker in no man's land. So quite clear-ish, but a nice solid theme. So first we have Skabbik, Plagueseeker, your leader. He's a priest and a befouler. A befouler is at the start of each round, stagger each enemy fighter adjacent to this fighter, which is okay. He has 4 move with 4 wounds and 1 dodge, and a warp staff, which is at 2 damage, 2 smash, 2 range with Grievous. And he inspires when 2 or more territories are corrupted by your warband, and that's basically the same for everyone. When inspired, he goes to 1 block and goes to 3 fury with Grievous, so technically becomes more likely to roll a crit but less accurate. Other than that, he's okay. At least he's a priest, I guess. Then you have Itchit, who is a minion with Befouler. He has 4 move, 1 dodge, 3 wounds. A Plague Burner, which is okay. And here's the Book of Woe. So roll 1 magic dice for each enemy fighter in the same territory as this fighter. On the roll of a focus, deal 1 damage to that fighter. So what's nice is it has the potential to, you move him into someone's territory and just, potentially, chip everyone. The only issue is it works on a focus, which is a, 1 in 3 chance. So not great. When inspired, he goes to basically 2 damage, which is nice, but his Book of Woe now triggers on a channel, so much more useful. You're probably activating him last regardless at the end of the first action phase if you activate someone, but it's quite successful to activate him last, pop Book of Woe, and then activation 1 of turning point of action phase 2, do it again with a more likely chance to chip. So not bad. Then we've got Rabidus Gench, who is a minion with Befouler. He has 4 move, 1 dodge, 3 wounds, a Plague Sensor, which is 3 damage with range 2 and 2 fury, and then a Scything version, which is 2 fury with 2 damage. So he's actually your main damage dealer, which is worryingly good for you and your opponent. When inspired, he goes to 2 smash with his 3 damage attack, which is good, and he goes to 3 fury with a Scything attack. So he actually wants to stay alive because you will really want to start punching into key enemy warbands turn 2. Then you've got Poklix, your minion, who has 2 wounds and a 3 fury, 1 damage grievous attack. So just, he's got those stabby little blades. When inspired, he goes to 3 wounds and 4 fury with grievous 1. So still basically trash, but he exists to just sit on objectives and do stuff. Then you've got Ricket, who has 2 wounds and has a range 2 fury, 1 damage grievous attack. So at least some threat range there. And when inspired, goes to 3 wounds and 2 damage. So a little bit better than before. Finally, you have your little rat, Skritter, who is a minion with Befouler, who has 5 move, 1 dodge, 1 wound, and a 2 fury, range 1, 1 damage attack. It's worthless. So if this fight would be taken out of action, you remove it from the field and clear all counters and persisting effects from this fighter. It's not taken out of action, so basically never gives a glory when it dies, but it still triggers for all your stuff, and it obviously is a beast. And when inspired, goes to 2 dodge. That's pretty much it. It's just, he runs disruptants, so you can run him onto stuff. It's just funny. Like, your opponent is literally wasting stuff to kill him, but they probably want to kill him, but you can put him into positions where it would make your opponent just like kind of worthless to do. But it's a nice little guy to waste out stuff, so it's okay. The only thing is, he does take up one of your activations. For the objectives, we have a leader's privilege. It's a dual score. There's an end phase if 2 or more friendly minions are within 2 or hexes of a leader, and those minions are in no one or an enemy territory. Quite easy to set up, especially against more defensive foes, so all right for 1 glory. Befouled Surge, score this immediately after an enemy fighter has taken out action by basically one of your friendly fighters, so pretty good for 1 glory. Another Surge is Blessed by Corruption. Score this immediately after opponent's activation if a friendly minion is on an objective in enemy territory. So if you can set this up, it's actually a really good Surge regardless. Bringers of Ruination, score this in end phase if 3 or more territories are corrupted by your Warband. This is like really, really good. You can potentially score this action phase 1. So a great objective. The fact it has no like 3rd end phase, amazing. Corrupting the Land, score this in the end phase if no one's and or enemy territory are corrupted by your Warband. It's okay, but I probably wouldn't take it because it requires, it's actually not bad. It is at least no one's territory, so you can actually quite get this for 1, but just beware. Infected Corpse Pile, dual scores an end phase if 2 or more territories are corrupted by your Warband and 2 or more enemy fighters are out of action. Considering this Warband isn't great at killing stuff, it's a very situational card and not great at 2. It's 2 glory, but I probably wouldn't run this card. Rabid Harbingers is a Surgeon's Goal. Score this immediately after an opponent's activation step if your Warband holds 2 or more objectives and 1 or more friendly Befoulers on an objective in your territory. Amazing. It's basically a faction hidden purpose. Reckless Fanatics, dual scores an end phase if there are 2 or more friendly fighters adjacent to the same enemy fighter and one of those friendly fighters are Befoulers. Once again, it's not bad, and you can quite, this is great, action phase 1 to set up, especially against Warbands you activate. So pretty solid for 2 glory. Then you've got Ruinous Supremacy. Scores an end phase if your Warband holds more objectives than there are surviving enemy fighters. Considering you already have a really good 3 glory objective card, I wouldn't really take this. This is quite greedy, in my opinion. Scuttling Horde, scores this immediately after your Warband's 3rd or successive move action made in the same phase. Considering charges count as move actions, this is amazing. Once again, another Surge you will always take. Then you've got Spreading Filth, Surge and Dual, score this immediately after opponent's activation if there are 1 or more friendly fighters in 2 or more territories and 1 or more enemy fighters are out of action. So this is more dubious. It's still a good Surge, but if you were looking to cut a Surge out, I'd probably do it for Spreading Filth. Useful Distraction is a Surgeon Hybrid. Scored this immediately after an activation step in a friendly minion was a supporting fighter, or a surviving friendly minion was the target of an attack action. Once again, this is great. You take this, it either benefits you when you kill, or benefit when an opponent fails to kill you. So really good. So then for the Gambits, we have Expeditious Assistance. The first attack or defense roll made by a friendly fighter in the next activation has an innate support. It's okay if you can set it up, but I wouldn't really put this in my deck. Festering Sneak, choose a friendly minion, push the chosen minion up to 2 hexes. After that push, that minion must be adjacent to 1 or more enemy fighters or a friendly leader. Really, really good. Feverish Flailing, you can reroll 1 attack dice in the first attack roll made by a friendly fighter in the next activation. It's okay, but, not necessary. Manifestation of a Great Plague, choose a friendly priest and roll 1 magic dice. On the roll of a channel or crit, that territory of the chosen priest and is corrupted by a Warband. It's really good, especially when you want to immediately corrupt your opponent's territory, because once again, you have basically a 4 in 6 chance of triggering this. Really good. Move, move, move. Choose a friendly minion. The chosen minion makes a move action, which is great because it counts towards that surge that count, needs you to make 3 or more move actions. But you can only play this while your leader's alive, but still really, really good. Overpowering Odors. Reaction, play this during a friendly fighter's range 1 or 2 attack action after the defense roll. If that attack action would fail and there were 1 or more successes in the attack roll, add 1 to the number of successes rolled by the attacker. So basically, if your attack would still fail, but you rolled at least 1 attack roll, and your opponent rolled 1 defense roll, you get to add 1 success. So it's really good if you trap someone, but even then if you tied on successes. So actually a really good card. Pestilent Blessing is restricted to a priest. Choose a friendly minion. That chosen minion's range 1 and 2 attack actions have crit Grievous 1. In addition, that if the chosen minion is a Befouler, this effect persists until the end of the round or until that minion is taken out of action. Not great. Rancid Vomit. Roll 1 magic dice. On the roll of a focus, choose an enemy fighter adjacent to 1 or more friendly Befoulers. Deal 2 damage to that chosen fighter. Good, but once again, it's only triggering on a 1 in 3 chance, so I wouldn't really run it. Then you've got Unctuous Citations. Choose a friendly leader and a friendly minion. Push each of those chosen fighters 1 hex. Once again, is restricted to a priest, but really, really good. Vile Blood. Reaction, play this during an enemy fighter's range 1 or 2 attack action. After the deal damage step, if the target would be taken out of action, -1 damage to a minimum 1 from that enemy's range 1 or 2 attack actions. It persists until the enemy fighter is taken out of action or makes a successful range 1 or 2 attack action. So it's basically if you kill someone, you debuff them and you have a chance to basically kill them again. It's not bad, but it's kind of iffy considering your opponent can just turn it off by killing someone else again. For upgrades, we have Bursting Swords. Use this as a reaction after an activation step if a friendly fighter was dealt damage in the preceding activation. Choose an enemy fighter within 2 hexes. Deal 1 damage to that enemy fighter. It's okay, but your fighters aren't that durable, so it's not really that great. Disgusting Appearance is +1 defense, which is amazing. Glorious Sacrifice. When this fighter is taken out of action, if the territory they are in is not corrupted by a warband, that territory is corrupted by a warband. Otherwise, gain 1 glory point, then break this card. This is amazing. This is like the perfect card for this warband. You send someone into your opponent's territory. You either corrupt it, die and corrupt, or die while it's corrupted and gain a glory. Really, really good. Noxious Vapors. Deal 1 damage to each enemy fighter adjacent to this fighter at the end of the action phase. Restricted to a Befouler, but really, really good, because it always triggers at the end. You can surprise people by doing it. I really like that. Pox-Ridden Lucidity. Reaction. Use this after a fighter's first successful range 1 or 2 attack action. Pick 1, draw a power card, draw 1 objective card and place it in the bottom of your deck. It's restricted to Rabidus, Poxix, and Ricket. It's nice, but your guys aren't actually that accurate. So it's a decent draw tech card, but I'm unsure if I would actually run it. Rotten Flesh. You can't give this to a large fighter. -1 damage to a minimum of 1 from enemy fighter's attack action that target this fighter while it's corrupted by your warband. It's okay. I think you do take it anyway, but it's just quite a sitch. It's like it won't benefit you turns 1, but it should benefit you turn 2 and 3, which is pretty solid. Screaming Lunatic. +1 damage to this fighter's range 1 or 2 attack action while they have 1 or more charge tokens and or 1 or more wound counters. Pretty solid +1 damage. Unbelievable Stench. Each enemy fighters in the same territory of this fighter cannot be on guard. Reaction. Use this after a friendly fighter's activation. Stagger each adjacent enemy fighter. This one's pretty good. The only issue is if they're already on guard already, but it's actually got some nice tech there. Vile Fanaticism. +1 dice to this fighter's range 1 or 2 attack actions other than scything actions. Pretty good. You can see they were hesitant about the scything attacks, but otherwise it's a really good upgrade. Voice of the Great Corruptor. This fighter is a priest. If 1 or more friendly leaders are out of action, this fighter is your leader. Action. This territory this fighter is in is corrupted by a warband. Is restricted to Itchit. If it wasn't restricted to him, it would be pretty good. I wouldn't really run it. So now I'll move on to the Rivals deck that comes, well, not with this warband. Obviously, you don't get the Rivals deck included anymore, but this is the one, the Paths of Prophecy deck, available separately. So for the objectives, we have a Dire Omen. Hybrid. Score this in end phase if your warband holds objective 5, or the value of objectives your warband holds adds up to precisely 5. For 1 glory, it's not really great. It's a nice twist on hold objective 5, but Yeah, nah. Aside from the gods, score this as a hybrid in the end phase if your warband holds objective 3 or your warband holds objectives 1 or 2. 1 and 2, sorry. Once again, not exactly amazing for 1 glory. All part of the plan. Surge, score this immediately after opponent's activation step if the value of objectives your warband holds adds up to a number greater than the number of surviving fighters. For 1 glory, it's really not that good, especially if you're running into like super large warband and you're a large warband. Very, very situational. Complete Harmony, hybrid, scores an end phase if your warband holds each objective or the value of objectives your warband holds adds up to precisely 15. It's 5 glory. You know, if you have ways to add extra objectives and flip them, then that's great. Otherwise, this feels very gimmicky. Devoted Offerings is a surge and hybrid. Scores immediately after you play your third or subsequent ploy in the same action phase, or you draw your third or subsequent power card in the same action phase. This is actually really good for 1 glory. You know, pretty good. Hanging On, Surge and Duel, score this immediately after opponent's activation if 1 or more friendly fighters are each holding an objective in enemy territory and 1 or more of those fighters have 2 or more move tokens. It's 1 glory and very confusing, very warband specific. Held in a Bloody Fist, Surge and Duel, score this immediately after opponent's activation step if 1 or more friendly fighters are each holding 1 or more objectives and 1 or more of those fighters have 1 or more wound counters. Not great, because it's designed for elite warbands, but not great. Portents of Doom, scores an end phase if the value of objectives your warband holds adds up to precisely 9. You know, when you score this objective, if your warband holds 3 or more objectives, gain 1 additional glory point. It's a weird twisty take on Supremacy, but once again, it feels entirely outside of your control. Very, very random. Positive Foreboding, Jules, score this in the end phase if your warband holds more objectives than each other warband and 1 or more of those objectives are within 2 hexes of no one's territory. It's okay for 1 glory. Prevention over Cure, Surge, scores immediately after opponent's activation step if there are more enemy fighters out of action than the number of objectives held by each enemy warband. That's okay for 1 glory. Written in the Skies, hybrid, score this in the end phase if your warband holds an objective with a value of 0 or 6, or the value of objectives your warband holds adds up to precisely 6. It's not great for 1 glory. Your Lucky Day, Surge and Duel, score this immediately after an activation, opponent's activation step if the value of objectives your warband holds adds up to precisely 7 and 1 or more enemy fighters are out of action. For 2 glory, it's not great. For Gambits, we have a pack sealed in blood. Choose a friendly fighter that is holding an objective. Deal 1 damage to that chosen fighter. After that fighter has dealt damage, if your warband holds 3 or more objectives, draw 3 power cards. You know, it's an interesting draw tech, but it's pretty good for this kind of deck. Bursting Power, pick an objective token, roll a magic dice for each fighter within 1 hex of that objective token. On a roll of a channel, deal 1 damage to that fighter. It's a nice way to damage people, but it requires, you know, your opponent fighting around or on the objectives, which seems hard. Dangerous Objects, stagger each enemy fighter that was in 1 hex of an objective token your warband does not hold, which is okay. Easily Distracted, choose an enemy fighter, push that chosen fighter 1 hex, then pick 1 opponent. That opponent chooses 1 other fighter, they push the chosen fighter up to 2 hexes. The only issue is they can choose any other fighter, whether it be one of yours or theirs. So I don't think that's great. Fair Fortune, choose a friendly fighter. Give that chosen fighter an upgrade from your hand. Do not spend any glory. When you play this card, if your warband holds 3 or more objectives, draw 1 power card. This is amazing. Inconstant Predictions, choose up to 2 friendly fighters. Give each one a guard token and stagger each other friendly fighter. That's not great. Reversal of Fate, pick a feature token within 2 hexes of friendly fighter and flip. That's pretty good. Slinking in there, choose a friendly fighter, push the chosen fighter 1 hex, push the chosen fighter up to 2 hexes instead if it would end that push on an objective token. That's pretty good. Succor in Certainty, choose a friendly fighter, heal 1, and then heal 2 instead if your warband holds 3 or more objectives. That's not really that good. Tread the Path, choose a friendly fighter, that chosen fighter takes a move action. The chosen fighter's move characteristic is X for that move action, where X was the number of objectives your warband was holding when this card was played. It's interesting move tech, but I think it should have been X plus 1. I'm not really a fan of this. Now we go into the upgrade. So we have Absolute Incredulity. Objectives held by this fighter cannot be flipped or moved, which is pretty good. Deadly Defiance. Reaction after an activation step in with this fighter's attack action dealt damage to an enemy fighter, or in which this fighter was dealt damage. Push this fighter 1 hex. It's not bad. Guided by Fate. +1 dice to this fighter's attack action if this fighter and or the target is on a feature token, which is pretty good. Inviolate Prophet, -1 dice to minimum 1 for attack action that targets this fighter if this attacker is not adjacent to this fighter and this fighter is holding an objective. Quite situational. Nothing special. For the purpose of holding objectives, this fighter is not considered to be a beast. While this fighter is on a feature token, it is treated as an objective token with a value of 0. It's okay. Very Warband specific. Protected by the unseen, +1 defense while this objective is holding an objective with a value of 4, 5, or 6. Very odd. Stubborn stance, this fighter cannot be pushed. Really good. The helping hand, pick 2 feature tokens, place each token in a feature hex, and the other token was when you pick them, then break this card. I'd probably be more a fan of this card if it wasn't broken after you use this, but it's okay. Unhallowed Aura. While this fighter is holding an objective, that objective is considered to have a value of 6. At the start of the round, break this card. Reaction, use this after this fighter's activation. If you do, break this card. It seems designed just to make this deck work, and it doesn't seem that great. Watchful Eye. At the start of the end phase, before you or an opponent scores objective cards, you can add or subtract 1 to a minimum of 0 from the value of an objective token this fighter is holding until the end of that phase. Good for the purposes of this deck, otherwise quite trash in general. So overall, I like the Skaven. I like the Skaven Warband. I think it's very fun. It seems very fitting of, like, you know, Plague Priests from Skaven, and I think it plays that well. It actually doesn't need to hold objectives. Holding objectives just speeds up corrupting, and I really like how it plays. It's definitely a grindy down kill team. Grindy down Warband. But it looks like it has potential. The fighters are quite weak, but the cards are great. Like, the objectives are amazing, and most of the power cards are really good as well. And I think it's really fun. Quite tough to use, but a very, very good warband. As for the Rivals deck, it's not great. It's a nice twist on hold objectives, but it's got like a common trend with problematic Rivals decks where, you know, some of your objectives want to be in, like, you know, taking wounds. So there's cards that damage yourselves, and then there's one card to offset that by healing you, but not really mass healing you. So it's a very weird Rivals deck. I'm sure it's probably better for very specific warbands and builds, but in general, it seems quite bad. But overall, I would 100% recommend the Skaven Warband. Really, really fun. The models look great. You'll just have a good time. It's very, very Skaven. Like, I really love how they're like nailing the 3 Skaven warbands we've had. It's really, really good. The Rivals deck seems like quite a miss. Maybe if you can figure out how to make it work, it's probably really good for you, but it's probably better with, you know, the Khorne warband with only 3 fighters, which kind of specializes around holding objectives. But I think they've already got a better Rivals deck in circulation at the moment. So it's a bit disappointing there. But for the warband, amazing. But that's pretty much it for me today. Remember, I'll have an article version of this in the episode description below. But yeah, thanks goes to Games Workshop for providing this for free to review. And remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of this review. Did you like it or not? You know, let me know. And remember, I've got a Discord you can check out in the episode description below, as well as an affiliate link to Element Games and a Patreon if you want to give me some more support. So I'll quickly shout out my patrons. So for my Adepts of the Crit, I have Sam, Nick, Mr. Meatwad, Kenzie, John Thomas, Captain Murder, Dad of Goldens, Ben, Arthur, and then for my Veterans of the Crit, I have Sam Just. So thank you so much for your support. It really means a lot to me and helps support the channel. But yeah, that's pretty much it from me today. I was going to try and get the Skaven Warband painted, but I have so much Kill Team stuff to paint. But it's nice reviewing, you know, Underworlds again. I didn't get the starter set and the ghosts, which I'm not too upset about, considering we also got another starter set. But it's nice to be reviewing Underworld stuff again. So I hope my Underworlds fans enjoyed it. Rivals is still, well, I prefer Nemesis to Rivals, but Nemesis has been pretty fun. So it's great to see these warbands just been really fun to play. But that's pretty much it from me. And remember, no matter how pox and poison riddled your rats are, there's always a chance to survive as long as you don't touch them and you can roll a crit.